Hi, and welcome back to Pizzas and Stories by Pizza Gogs. I'm Vince, and today we have Enzo Marino, founder and owner of known staple Enzo's Pizza, operating now for, over 20 years, joining forces with and getting its new home in 2021 at Crazy Pour Sports Bar in Villa Park, Illinois, and also operating Parley Bar. An amazing pizza family history, viral moments, unforeseen hurdles, and unbelievable new heights. Welcome, Enzo, and thanks for your time.
Thank you. That's a great intro, man. I love that.
Yes, awesome. I always love to do a bit of research, so
Yeah,
you
you
know,
did
it
it, man.
was
You did your research on that. So yeah, I've been around probably 25 to 30 years. Started my senior year in high school in Berwyn. So that was No Nose Pizza. It's still operating too by my cousins, but it was a hole in the wall, just a casual, old school open kitchen. Literally, you'd roll the dough, make your pizzas. Ovens were right behind you. Table to cut them was right next to you. It was 1,000 square foot, just pizza slices, pizza delivery. And that was like 1996. And then had a couple stops along the way to where we're at today. So it's been crazy.
beautiful. It's beautiful. So let's take it back to Nono's then. So this is, as you mentioned, where your pizza story starts for you. And you mentioned you started off when you were in high school.
It was a
You
senior in high
mentioned
school. It was
senior high.
96. First time it was my dad and my uncle. They were
Mhm.
partners there. And it was really family run. So it was my uncle's kids, so my cousins, it was myself, my brother, other cousins. It was really all in house. We had some outside employees too, of course, on the line and some delivery drivers. But yeah, learned basically it was a small place. I mean, pretty much like a cash register, a display machine, just people coming in and out. So learned to do counter work, answer phones, take orders. So this is the late 90s. And then little by little, as you're answering phones, you're watching these guys make pizzas. You're learning that way. So my dad and my uncle, they both wanted to let me learn everything from the ground. They didn't say, hey, this is the owner's kid. It was, we were treated worse than the other employees, myself, my brother. But that's how we learned everything. We learned from taking deliveries, taking phone orders, eventually getting on the lines, making the pizzas, eventually doing prep work, working on the business too. I mean, there was things that late 90s, it was like credit cards were starting to get introduced. So that was a
Right.
big thing that I think my dad still hates that I did with all the fees. But if it was up to him, he'd be cash only. But yeah, just making new menus, making new items, marketing, flyers, credit card. Like there's a lot of things. And my dad and my uncle were not the most innovative. They're from Italy. So, this was their second language. So it was on us cousins to kind of get that all together and try to bring it from where it was to where it got to. And all these years later, it's still operating by my two cousins. So it's doing great there.
It's unbelievable. So as you learned all these different parts and roles that it takes to run even a mom and pop pizzeria, right? What was the hardest piece to learn for you back then? Or did everything click naturally?
No, there was a lot of stuff. I wouldn't say it wasn't anything to do with customers or complaints or, because all that stuff you figure out. Family dynamic, I think, is the hardest thing. So working with your brother, when you're 16 years old, your brother is maybe, a few years younger than you.
Right.
That whole dynamic just at home, let alone working together in public, in business, with cousins, with dads, with uncles. I think that is the toughest. And not that we had issues, but it was just learning and respecting that dynamic in a business role versus at home and, whatever you fight over little things here and there. But I think just the family dynamic. So blood is blood. So even though you're partnerships, you're working together, you always get through all that stuff and work things out. So definitely, I think that would be the hardest. And then the other thing, which would kind of transition to the second store that we had, so many people in one place. Now, this was a 1,200 square foot pizza place. I had like 6 tables in there for slices for kids after school. So it was a small place. As we got older, like my brother and I kind of branched off and opened up a second location. So that was, there was 6 cousins all working together, a dad and uncle. So a lot of people under one place making that go. And then we wanted to expand at some point. So finding the right spot and, just how everything worked out was great. So if we had like a 5-mile radius of that Berwyn store, we opened up in Countryside, LaGrange area, which is like the next 5 miles over to the west. And we were seeing a lot of people that were our customers in Berwyn and Cicero kind of moving west as the neighborhoods were changing a little bit. So it was like close to the city, but changing areas. So a lot of the people were moving kind of west, and we decided to open up a spot. So before we even opened, we had a lot of name recognition in that area from our past customers. So that was pretty cool. And then opening with my brother and myself, there were some hurdles there too, but finding the right spot, everything that's required by health code or by the city to, convert. We found a spot that was a flower shop, and then we turned it into a commercial kitchen. So there was a lot of things that we had to change in there, but it was all worth it. And we were at the second spot for 17 years. So that was that's where we kind of learned everything on our own. So it's one thing when you have your dad and your uncle always there and they're making the major decision, but then when it's your spot and your investment, it's kind of, you work together with the two restaurants together, but a lot more responsibility on your shoulders.
Of course. And was this a kind of a collective family approved decision to branch out and create the second location, or was it really spearheaded by you and your brother?
My brother and I really wanted to do it, but of course we always wanted the blessing of everyone. So everybody was excited to do it. We had the same name. So, the Nono's Pizza name we brought over there. So we want, same recipe, same service, same everything that everybody expected. We wanted to make sure. So there was always I'm sure my uncle was a little bit worried, like, hey, are they going to keep the same way that we do things here, the same expectations, same levels of expectations? We did. And then there was always a little bit of making sure it doesn't impede on the current location. So even though we were over, just making sure that we weren't taking our own business away, if that made sense, which we did. And we ended up expanding on 5 new towns, and the 2 places together worked. So it's like we had a 5-mile radius for deliveries in one area and then the other. So that included up to like 10 to 12 towns. So we really expanded our ways. Yeah, definitely.
So that's amazing. Yes, I was going to ask about the cannibalization component, and you answered it before I even could ask.
Yeah. So that was one thing. There were like certain areas that were probably shared, but it wasn't. In the end, it's going to be who, if somebody wants to stop by. What was nice is there were some people that maybe worked in one zone, but then lived in a different zone. So we would maybe see some people for lunch, and then the other store would see them for dinner, or just, kids, like maybe the parents still lived in the old neighborhood, but then like kids moved on. So I think it all worked out for the best. Yeah. We were both locations stayed very busy. So there's no complaints on that.
That's great. And so did the second location then change names, or how did Enzo's really take place?
For 15 years, it stayed as Nono's. So there's a few different reasonings why we changed it. But so my brother and I, after 15 years, life happens. My brother got married, was living in the city in downtown Chicago, Lincoln Park area. So he wanted to kind of branch out on his own with his wife, and they opened up a location. It was in Lincoln Park, right by the college, right, DePaul, if you're familiar. So he ended up, after the 15th year, he left and opened up his thing. I stayed on, with the No-Nos, but at that time, and I hate giving it publicity because they're still around, but there was another place that opened up very close to us with a very similar name. So we were No-Nos, which means grandpa. There was another place that opened up legitimately a few blocks away down the same street called Nona's, and they were selling slices, a lot of the same deals. And we were running into issues where people were coming by us thinking they placed an order and we didn't have the order, so they were calling the other place. So we wanted to change, I wanted to kind of rebrand it, change the name where it was tricky. It was a tricky decision because we didn't want people to think that we sold the restaurant or sold, different ownerships. So as creative as I could be, I came up with Enzo's because I figured people will know, people already knew kind of me in the neighborhood, and me and my brother as well. But if I left it as Enzo's, at least people would know it's still the same ownership. They just rebranded it. So, and a lot went into that too. We had to, get new websites, new menus, new signage, new, just new permits, stuff like that. It was a decision that for the remainder 2 to 3 years, it was a good decision to do this. Wow. Yeah. So that was the whole reason for the name change. It wasn't that I really liked my name and I wanted to put my name on it, but it was more that we wanted to give a sense of security to the people, our customers, that it is still us. So it is Enzo still there. And that's why we wanted to differentiate from competitors that were kind of similar to what we were doing.
Right. No, of course. And so what was one of the major hurdles you faced when performing the name change, or did it go far smoother than you thought it would?
like I said, like there wasn't too many hurdles. The main thing was being scared if people still thought it was you or not. So you still
Yes.
had people coming in like, oh, I wasn't sure. I saw that, the name
Mhm.
change. I saw. So there were still some people that didn't know, or there were some people that never had known those before. So there was a few, it was mainly with the customers. We didn't want to lose any customers with the name change.
Mhm. Right. Makes sense. Makes sense. So now COVID time comes, and I've read a lot that you were quite the busy man during that period,
Yeah.
and a lot happened. So please, I would love to hear about
I don't know
creative approaches you took.
if you can see it over my shoulder. I got like some newspaper clippings and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that that happened during COVID. But COVID was a scary time. So, I mean, it was scary for everybody, but especially if you had your own business because you didn't really know, do we shut down for it was like a 2-week period. They were thinking, I remember it was around St. Patrick's Day, and they were
Yeah.
worried, should we shut down? Should we not? So much uncertainty with it. So right before COVID, we had a new menu. This is like, there's like 2, 3 things that kind of went into all this, but with a new year coming in January, we did a new menu. We always try to change up some of our signature pizzas, maybe add some new items. But there was one item that we put on, this is before COVID, and it was the beef roll. So you probably read about it's like a stromboli roll. It's our take on the stromboli roll, but it was Italian beef in our pizza dough. We gave it like different sauces, cut it up in squares, and it was a nice party item or to share with groups or whatnot. But marinara sauce, beef juice, hot pepper, sweet peppers. It was a really fun item. We loved it, and it was something new. But right off the bat, it takes time for a new item. But when COVID came and we decided to stay open, we took the precautions. We decided to stay open. We shut down our dining room, which wasn't that big, but we wanted to make everybody feel safe. So we really barricaded our dining room where we put our tables in an entryway, kind of squared it off. So it was one person at a time when you enter. And then our counter was about 10 feet from where the
Mhm.
barricaded tables were. So we would talk to people with a distance. And then if people came for pickups, we'd bring the pizza. And we had like about 6 feet of tables that you'd slide the pizzas. We try to come up with everything to keep clean, but just to keep distance, just to make people feel comfortable. One person at a time, people would wait outside. Literally, sometimes there'll be a line across the whole strip mall where people were waiting. But during this time, a lot of people were home. People weren't working. The beef roll became really popular. And there was this restaurant group in that area. So Facebook is I'm a big believer in social media, but Facebook really pushed this. But there was like a restaurant group. It was created to like share food items, people in the area to support restaurants during the tough time of COVID. So like people would go out and pick something up or get it for delivery. They'd share pictures, go support them, or, this restaurant's not doing too well. I went there today. It was kind of slow or whatever. So it was more of it wasn't like a Yelp where it's like good reviews, bad.
Mhm.
This was more of a supportive thing. Great restaurant group. It really grew. I mean, it went on the news and WGM was doing specials on this restaurant group. But anyway, somebody shared the beef roll on this restaurant group, picture of it, said, had this beef roll today. It was great. Her name was Marie. She still comes in today to this day.
Really?
She takes the credit for making it big, which she was the first person to do it. But from this Facebook group, people were sharing things and just more and more people were trying it. And it became like the hit item during COVID. Like if you go back in that time and look at some of the pictures, some of the posts, some of the comments, and it was just crazy how the whole thing took off. But beef roll during COVID really helped us. And then just kind of adapting very fast and being very creative. We were doing a lot of stuff with first responders, donations. So, we even opened up our grocery stores their shelves weren't full sometimes. So if we had produce or vegetables, we would actually sell, people wanted to come in here, there's green peppers or tomatoes or whatever it was. So we we just adapted to it, but you could come in and buy some things. You could come in and order your dinner. You could come in and get frozen pizzas or frozen rolls, keep for storage, stuff like that. But we also did this thing with donations where somebody wanted to donate $10 and we got to the point where we collected $100. We would go and either police department, fire department, hospitals in the area, first responders, it was a big push for the first responders because they were still working in the elements during COVID. So if we got $100, we ended up doing like this big catering order of pizzas. We tried to feed the whole police department or the whole ER department or the doctors. So that really took off a lot, and people just they liked what we were doing, sharing it on that group, sharing on Facebook. So that it took on a life of its own too. So we ended up feeding every hospital in the area. When I tell you like over 10 hospitals, even out of our area, every police department, every fire department. And it was all just based on people donating maybe $10 at a time, maybe a little bit more from there. But we took it upon ourselves. It wasn't even to make money. It was more, let's feed the entire ER department, cover our costs. It was $100, but we're putting out 10 pizzas and salads and pasta, stuff like that. But that was just the neighborhood came together with that too. So it was a good thing. A lot of different things that we did. And I can't even come up with some of them off the top of my head, but it was all more of a sense of community, sense of neighborhood, being there for each other. I know we would do free delivery for elderly. So if somebody who couldn't drive or they were more at high risk for coming out during COVID, we would do free delivery for them. They'd call us and we deliver it to them. So a lot of the elderly were appreciative of that too. So yeah.
Wow, that's very heartwarming. It's very difficult to remember that time, and many stories and instances talk about how everyone felt so isolated and was alone, and it felt like you and your community did the opposite. You all came together.
Yeah.
And very beautiful. And do you think where did this kind of not even giving, but the supportive nature come in your case? Is that from running the family business altogether? Where does that stem from?
So that first responder thing that we did, the first one came from my mom. So it is from the family. So my mom, I remember she just gave me a couple $100. She said, hey, do something for we were located in countryside. So either, do something for the police department. We had LaGrange, the next town over. So do something for LaGrange Hospital. I don't know if you remember, there was people were donating masks if they couldn't find masks, or there was nurses that were working all day, double, 12-hour days, 14. And they were wearing these masks, and they had lines on their faces, and she wanted to do this. So I took that first, I think it was $200, and I said, all right, let's do this. And that's how we started. The first promotion was we kicked it off. It was from my mom, and we kind of and not to get notoriety from it, but we wanted to take pictures. We wanted to just to kind of kick off. Hey, we want to keep doing this. If you guys want to donate, and that's where it came from there. I will give it to the neighborhood, the customers we had in that area. They were some of the best people. When you're there for so long, for 15, 16, 17 years, you're part of that community. So whether it was fundraisers for schools, whether it was anniversary, we would do dollar slices on our anniversary every year to celebrate that. You just become part of that community. You would see people you grew up with, or then they would, as you're getting older, they're having kids. Their kids are now coming in having pizzas, and it's just all kinds of things. So when you're there for a long time, they really supported us. We couldn't do anything there if it wasn't for the great customers that we had, for sure.
Wow. And so at that point, right, come 2021, a very big or a very major issue or situation came to be, right? And
yeah.
I don't want to get too much into it myself. I want to hear it from your end, and especially after all you've been telling me about community. Please.
Yeah, so it was 2021, I believe. Yeah, so we didn't own our building. We paid rent for a long time. And, there's no ill will towards anybody. At the time, it was a very tough situation. But we were always on a year-to-year lease. It was more, especially during COVID, nobody knew if you're going to be busy, if you're going to survive, if you're not. Nobody, we weren't signing 10-year leases at that time. So our original lease was a 5-year lease, with an option for 5 years. That took us into 10 years. And then pretty much from that point on, we went year to year. So it was, kind of a handshake agreement, kind of hey, the lease is coming up, we're going to renew, just very casual. So that could have been my fault, where maybe I should have secured it, but it was what it was. But anyways, so it was coming time for the lease to renew. I think it was maybe September. I don't know the details. I don't remember. But so when I reached out, trying to see about the renewal, wasn't getting too many answers. And then there was a store next to us. It was the old Boston Market. It was empty for a couple years. So there was an alley that separated us, but there was a store that was empty. And we were hearing rumors that, a business was going into the Boston Market. And we're starting to hear more and more, and we're reaching out to the city. But that business wanted to buy the mall that we were located in, and they were going to tear it down because they needed a parking lot. My landlord wasn't really keeping me in the loop with any of this. She was probably just trying to see if this was a legitimate offer or whatnot. But they ended up making an offer to the landlord to buy the mall just so they could tear it down, which she accepted. So with no lease in hand, I had no protection. So trying to reach out to these people who came to see, hey, is there any way we could stay here, or give us time, or maybe, maybe not tear it down right away, but give us a year, we could try to relocate. That they weren't really responding to anything or answering anything, and that's business. So I knew that our lease was coming up, and I had literally 2 months, maybe 3 months, not much time at all. So there's a lot going in your mind when this is happening, and this is all after surviving COVID and still kind of being in COVID, but surviving it, becoming very popular, with everything that's going on. So we were looking, what can we do? Can we relocate? We're trying to work with the city. Maybe there's a different area. But I tell people all the time, when you have a restaurant and you have ovens and all the equipment that you have, it's not as easy as saying, hey, we're just going to get a moving company and move everything. It's not like if you had a Verizon phone store and you just have to move your glass case with some telephone. So we had, Baker's Pride, 4 double-decker ovens, gas pipes, gas lines, steam tables, refrigeration, a lot of stuff. It was not, and there really wasn't anything available that could fit our needs that we could just roll right into. If we had more time, if maybe we had a year, we could have, kind of continued to do that, because places do that. They're able to stay open and then make the move, but there just wasn't enough time. We weren't prepared for it. It came all at the end. So, before letting the public know, I wanted to let my staff know. And you're telling people, whether it's full-timers in the kitchen or part-time high school kids, delivery drivers as a secondary job, you got to tell everybody, like, hey, this is what's going on, and we're going to be without a place, and I don't know what's going to happen. But, if this was like October or November, January, the lease was up. I think it was the end of January. So it's like, you're telling people we're going to be open for 2 months. I can't force you to stay here, because I know everyone's got families. You might have to look for another job, but you're more than welcome to stay here until the end. And I didn't know what the game plan was going to be for that. It's like, I might have had to close in December, not January. Who knows? If you don't have a staff, you can't continue doing what you're doing. So I did have that painful conversation. I did it individually with most of everybody, just to kind of let them know. And they all wanted to stay till the end, which was awesome. So, I wasn't expecting that, but every single one of those people wanted to stay till the end. They all worked every day. At that time, when we, it was crazy. So then I made the announcement. It was via Facebook. I just kind of wrote this long, in-depth thank you for letting us, stay here. But, January 24th, I think it was, is our last day in business. Please come and see us. I didn't think it was going to be that big of, I thought, people might be sad, but when I tell you that post was like our biggest post, like people were sharing it in disbelief, sad, people coming in, realtors were coming in and being like, hey, I could help you look for a place. It was just so much stuff. It was very overwhelming, but I just wanted to finish it out with the people that were working there. We had a great time, and, a lot of different news outlets were picking up on it. Radio stations, podcasts were picking up and sharing it. So those last 2 months, 3 months, when we made that announcement to when our lease ended, might have been our busiest weeks and months in the entire 17 years there. We were pretty much open 24 hours for the demand that we had. We were making frozen pizzas, frozen rolls. People were buying them in bulk, put in their freezer. And they're like, I'm going to have enough stuff in my freezer until you guys find your next location to carry me over. It was crazy.
Right.
So we bought chest freezers, because we didn't have enough space in our freezer. Like, we were buying chest freezers to store the stuff. But yeah, they gave us like the best send off. It felt really good. But at the same time, going into work week after week, getting to those last 2 weeks, and like, hey, this is going to be my last drive in, or this is going to be my last drive out, or whatever it was. It was very sad. It was a very sad moment, and not knowing if you're going to see any of your people again, or any of your employees, and everyone's going to be moving on and this and that. It was bittersweet, if that makes sense.
Of course. No, of course. Wow, that is fascinating about the last day. I'm sure there must be footage somewhere
Yeah,
from
we had
users.
videos. People were making their own videos. We as a staff would stay after. I mean, we were working all day, but we as a staff would stay after once we closed. One guy was playing the guitar. We would hang out. We'd watch TV. We were just really bonding with each other, just enjoying hanging out with each other. Yeah, I'm sure there's videos on Facebook. If you scroll years ago, there's plenty of videos that were on there. But we had a good time, and we were all there for each other. So it was cool.
That's great. So after this final day, what was going through your mind in terms of your next steps? I mean, you just went through a roller coaster with COVID, with the closure. How did you feel about taking the next step? Obviously, customers were pushing you probably to reopen as soon
Yeah,
as possible. Where was
absolutely.
your head at?
My head during like the last 2 weeks was getting through the last 2 weeks because it was tough. So I,
Mm,
I wasn't thinking about like in the beginning when I first was really fighting, like I gotta, fight this. I gotta stay here. They're not gonna knock it down. I gotta get my lease or, try to extend the lease before she sells it. And this way I have a little protection. But I was really putting up a fight, really, because I did not want to go. And, even though it was a strip mall, I'm like, well, what if we leave? I even got to the point, let's leave my storefront, knock the rest down. I could be like a standalone, but you still have a parking lot to share. And then the business that came next door, they could use the parking lot too. I was trying to do everything with the city, but to no avail. It wasn't working. So I wanted to get through those last 2 weeks. There were so many people that were coming in and taking pictures oh, we're going to see you again. And these are people you see, pizza business. It's the same people you see every Friday night. They order every Friday or every Saturday or every third. So it was sad saying goodbye to all these people. So, luckily there's, phone numbers, text messages and whatnot. Keep in touch. But I really wanted to get through those 2 weeks. And then I was going through like, I had a hernia that I was working through. I couldn't get the surgery while I was working, especially during COVID, because they weren't doing any type of surgeries during COVID. Number one. Number two, I couldn't be out of work for 7 days. I didn't, we're a mom and pop place. So I was dealing with that. So I knew what I wanted to do was I had to get through the 2 weeks, have our last day for everybody, and really, I did the last day. This is a side story, but the last day that everyone stayed, whatever money we made that last day, we split amongst the employees. I took nothing. So if there was 10 of them or 12 of them, whatever it was, and a lot of people came and spent a lot of money because they knew, but I said, whatever it is, we're going to chop it up evenly. And this is a little send off until you guys find another job. Hopefully it holds you over for a couple weeks until you find something. But so I wanted to get through that. And then I knew like literally the next 2 days, there was somebody coming in who was taking, like a broker that I sold the equipment to. So I had to get all the equipment out of there because they were going to knock the place down. So, that was my main concern, was getting everything out, closing up, and then getting myself right. So I took a hernia surgery, got, I rested for about a week after that. So literally when you're working 24/7, and then I was, just 5 days, 6 days, and I was burned out too. So I thought to myself, I might take a little vacation or I might just take 6 months off. Let's see what happens. But that wasn't the case. There was so many people from neighboring communities, different towns. It was like LaGrange Park, Brookfield, Hatchkins, all these different, whether it was the mayor, whether it was a board of trustee, an alderman, everybody would reach out and say, hey, we would love to have you in our town. And they were like showing me, hey, these are spots that we have. Here's a mall that we have. Here's this. At that time, when you think about it, I think I was doing about 10 years in Berwyn, 17 years in countryside. So 27 years, I didn't really have a break. And after what we were going through that last month of just battling, I did want to take a break. I was burned out. I said, let me figure out what I'm going to do. Let me take a break. That last day, splitting up the money amongst the employees, I said, they got a little cushion or a little head start until they could find something. I said, so I didn't feel too bad. So I just wanted to take a break, but had the surgery done. 5 days later, I didn't take a break. I was going crazy. I really was going crazy. And I had a couple of friends, one in particular that said, hey, come and check out the bar where we're at. Let's just come and look at it. And didn't promise anything. Just take a look, And I said, no. I kind of want a break. I'm burned out. He goes, you're not going to take a break. Just come and look, see what we could do here. So yeah, after hernia surgery and being in bed for 4 or 5 days, I had to do something. So I actually took a ride, saw the place, and it was a beautiful spot close to where I grew up. And they wanted to launch, it's a sports bar, but remember, this is all during COVID. So this is where all the timing goes. They were shut down. So bars, big places in general, There was no dining rooms. There was no bar. So when you're a sports bar, with a kitchen, and you can't have any customers or patrons in your bar, you're not making anything. So, as creative as you want to be, they were trying to like sell bottles, curbside service. It's not the same as a bar. So they wanted to launch a takeout, and always, just in case, have this in the, prepared if they ever had to shut down again for COVID or for whatever, because nobody knew what was going to happen. They would always have takeout and delivery available, curbside delivery, whatever, no contact delivery. So at least they could pivot the business into that. So I was for that. I said, yeah, let's do it. So, Crazy Poor Sports Bar, it's in Villa Park. I grew up in Elmer, so they're the next town over. We kind of launched takeout and delivery. I want to say in March. I joined them in February. January, the end of January is when I closed in Countryside. Right. Kind of redesigned the kitchen. They had this giant oven, a Fowles oven from 1940s, a big bakery oven that they weren't even using. They had a couple of Blodgett ovens that they were using, smaller, because that was kind of the volume that they had. So, we tuned everything up and got that oven ready, and just the temperature, started doing our prep, our dough, our sauce, our cheese, getting everything ready. And we launched. And in the beginning, it was not, it was good, but it wasn't like what we were used to from our other location. It took time to build it up. And I want to say like maybe a year later, after, we built it up, it was getting bigger. And we always had the built-in business of the bar. So when the bar is jam-packed and they're drinking, they're eating, they're having pizzas, they're having rolls. So we always had that, but we always wanted to layer the business. So we always wanted to have takeout and delivery, another segment to the sports bar business, to the liquor, we have an off-track betting, so to the OTB. So we always wanted to layer the business. So, but a year into it, and then this food influencer, his name was Phil Good. It's super good. Yeah. He does these awesome reviews in his car. So he's got cameras in his car, he's got microphones, but he takes the item, he goes in his car. It's a one-man show. He edits them, he makes them real funny. But he came to Crazy Poor, did the beef roll, and Super Bowl week, he dropped the video. So in February. So, the day this thing dropped, it was like nothing I imagined. Like, I never really had history with food influencers. We did Facebook, restaurant group, but this guy had such a reach that all these people, the day of and even the week of, and even to this day, we still have people who come in and like, hey, I saw that review, and this is like a year ago, but yeah, it dropped on Super Bowl week is food review. We had pre-orders for Super Bowl that we couldn't even open our phone lines for that day. We already had like a stack of orders that I was worried that if we were even going to get through them. And I was on the line actually helping the crews getting through them. We were doing hour by hour, 3 o'clock pickups, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. But when I tell you that they put us on the map, that review, and I think it's pinned on our Instagram. You'll see the guy in the car, but that review really put us on the map as far as pickup and delivery. Got the notoriety we needed. It gave us a nice boost. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So many things to uncover here. So first, I would really love to ask it's evident you have a good eye for opportunity, whether it was with the second location, picking the right place, and of course, then building it out. So with all these different opportunities that you were being presented in terms of properties that you could reopen, why did you decide to pull the trigger, particularly with Crazy Poor?
This episode is brought to you by PizzaBox AI, the all-in-one pizza subscription platform for pizzerias. With PizzaBox, you can launch customizable pizza subscriptions, offering customers weekly pizzas for 6 months, 12 months, or even month-to-month plans tailored to your pizzeria's style. Raise up to $100,000 upfront in 30 days through prepaid subscriptions, lock in customers for regular weekly visits, and boost weekly sales with subscription upsells. It's like Netflix, but for your pizza. Your customers subscribe and you grow. Start your pizza subscription today at www.pizzabox.ai.
So, like I said, I was burnt out after so many years.
Yes.
So to look for another property and get all the equipment and get everything in order and a permit. That was going to be a process that mentally I don't think I was ready to do it at that time. Literally, like, a week or two, a break, and then this place. I wanted to work with my friend. First and foremost, I wanted to work with my friends. There was just three of us. There's three partners. One of my friends has always been in fine dining, brick oven pizza, stuff like that, catering. So I always wanted to work with him, just back of house mentality, pick each other's brains, how I did it, how he did it. So that he was the one that was really pushing towards it and really wanted to, and kind of told me coming out. My other friend, was very close to, grew up with him. We've known each other since we were 15. I'm 46 now, so 30 plus years. And he was always a front of house person. He was always a nightclub guy, a liquor guy, a bar guy. So I never had any experience in that. So I'm always open to like learning and so I kind of I just thought the three of us together with what we all brought to the table would have been a good partnership. So, and then I always wanted to do something close to where I grew up, because I figured I went to high school here. I have family, I have friends that live here. So I wanted to do something close. This was, it's a beautiful place. If you see the videos, it was already there. It was already established, but this was just like another element to it. So to me, it wasn't as much pressure, if that makes sense. Like, it was pressure in the sense that it's a new market, it's a new town, it's a new city. So even where I was coming in my second location, we had name recognition from the first location, but this was a completely different market. So it was a challenge in that sense. We're like, hey, I want to see if I could do this on my own. If this is a new area, new territory, can I do it, or is it going to be a failure? But so there was pressure in that sense, but there was ovens there was space there was all the walk-in freezers and walk-in coolers. It was a huge kitchen, and I just thought that was the right opportunity to do it. The right people, the right place, the right opportunity.
Right. Oh, that all makes sense. And, congratulations so far with all this success, and fingers crossed there's more. So just like with Enzo's, and then of course with Crazy Pour, it seems that there were these social media moments, right, that led to increased traffic or something, kind of a spark going off, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And based on your following across Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you really do value the power of social media, and you've mentioned that just a little while ago today. So how do you go about nowadays posting? Because I see you going on TikTok and posting certain videos that follow the TikTok trends. Also, what is your approach to social media when it comes to your pizzeria?
So I think it's very important. I've always thought it was important, even before Reels or before TikTok was even around. I was always posting like photos, like just a picture of a pizza or a picture. In my head, if I posted something like around 11 a.m. or noon and someone's seeing it on their phone or their computer in their office, they might make them hungry for lunch. Maybe they weren't going to come for a slice, but now they are. And then I would always post something around dinner time or before people leave the office and go home. So like 4 o'clock, 4:30, if somebody's working a 9 to 5, try to get that image in their phone before they come out. And maybe they're going to call us. You put your phone number in there. Hey, give us a call. We'll have it waiting for you, whatever you want it to do. So I've always done that for a long time, since when Facebook was the first around. But then when these videos started coming out, I really valued the videos. And it could have just been more of like a funny thing or a behind the scenes thing, or it could be something like launching a new item, a new pizza, a new signature pizza, or a new menu item. So you take a video of it, show it. I just think people see it. It's a visualization of it. So always been a big believer in social media, whether you were just getting 2 likes or 3 likes or not that many engagement, but people are still seeing it regardless. Then with all these food influencers, that I noticed that like these people are making money from doing food reviews. So there's got to be a market for it. If they're coming around and giving their thoughts, the Barstool guy.
Oh, yes.
That guy, everybody knows one bite, everybody knows for the pizza. And, he likes a certain style of pizza. He'll bash everybody else, but it doesn't matter. Even the ones he gives a low score to, people are going to know they saw it. So there's content for it. So we started doing videos like that. TikTok is something new. We just started TikTok this year, I think maybe 6 months, 8 months. And we have like 25,000 followers on there. But the views that we get on there, TikTok, everything explodes on TikTok. We get millions of views, hundreds of thousands of views and likes and this. So that's been a nice thing. But Instagram and Facebook's always been the reels. I mean, Facebook, we have 130,000 followers on Facebook.
Yep.
So we have a good reach. And then when you see it working, there was a really big post. It was a stuffed pizza that we do, Chicago style stuffed pizza. And there's a ladder, and we wanted to see how high we could bring. So if you look it up, I think Unilad shared it, Lad Bible, a bunch of media shared it, and it just kept getting shared. Literally me walking up a ladder slowly with a slice, and I don't know how many feet it went, but it went. So from that video, I mean, when you start seeing people coming from different states, somebody said, it's one thing we're in Illinois, so somebody comes from Wisconsin or Indiana. Those are neighboring states. It's still pretty cool. Like, wow, you drove all the way here. But then you started seeing like, oh yeah, I'm from California or from New York, or I came from Canada or Alabama. Like, you're talking every part of the country, and you're just like, and they're not necessarily coming for the pizza. They're probably here for a vacation, but they knew when they got here to visit family or friends, oh, we need to stop at this place. I saw this video. I need to stop at Crazy Pour. I need to stop at Parlay, one of the locations. And they come and they tell me, hey, I see you on TikTok, or hey, I saw this video. Hey. So, and then that led to like, okay, they're going to order the stuffed pizza or a pan. So I would put them in the TikTok. So they'd come and we'd do cheese pulls with them, and they liked seeing it. They were sharing. So it snowballed. It was the power of the videos. It was the best marketing you could do. We never pay for ads. We never pay for followers. It's just an organic thing that happened. People liked it. People shared it. People started coming in for it. And people started trying, whether it was the beef roll from that food influencer, it might have been other influencers sharing other things. It might have been the cheese pulls for the stuffed pizza. People are coming in. They're introducing themselves, where they're from, what they're there. I want to get this item. I want to get that item. It's been awesome. It's been unimaginable that could happen with a small little pizza shop that I had in Berwyn to people now coming from all over the country to try the pizza. So.
Right. And that's very fascinating, because typically many people are averse to change or to new things that they might not particularly know how to use within their business, for instance. Were you just always naturally open to social, or how did that happen for you? Was it just natural, or was there a situation or an event that happened?
You know what? I always work with there's always younger staff, whether it's the people answering the phones, whether it's the counter, and they're high school kids. They're always, they're up to date with every trend, everything. So like when Snapchat was a thing, or if it's TikTok or whatever it may be, and they're showing you things. And so I'm a curious person. So I'm like, okay, I'll download it. That's probably how, I think it's the younger people that I've worked with that kind of show me that. And I've always had an open mind to things. Even though I'm an older person, I try to stay young. So I always want to have an open mind. I always want to learn stuff, because I never want to just settle. I never want to just stay where I'm at. Oh, I know everything. Or no, you always want to learn something. And I think my dad told me, he goes, if you're the smartest person in the room, you got to leave that room. You got to go to a different room, because you got to keep learning. So you can't just stay where you're at. So I do think that's where it's always my curiosity, but also working with younger people and just keeping up to date that way.
Oh, that's very inspiring. Many people often tend to avoid what the younger people say.
I know,
and maybe rightfully so as well in certain instances.
Sure, I'm sure, yeah. I'm sure certain things, but no, yeah. We just kind of roll with the punches and see what happens. Yeah.
It's great. So I think it would be a disservice for me to, of course, not really ask about the food. I think that's, the pride and joy, of course. And so initially, right, when you open the second location, right, a lot of the menu items, I would assume, came from recipes from your family.
Right.
Right. But then you started telling about how you then created new menu items, you would update it. Where would that come from? Would that already be particularly from you? Did you find a passion within creating new recipes? And how did that see?
I like to eat. So when you like to eat, you're going to try different stuff. Yeah. So basically, all the recipes that I learned were from the first restaurant, whether it's pizza recipes, whether it was our pasta recipe, sauces, stuff like that. But it was a very small menu. And when you look back at it, it's a lot of places are doing that now. They're going back to downsizing menus and doing a few things, but doing it right. My dad and my uncle, they did that from the beginning. They had a couple of pizza styles. They had a couple of appetizers, a couple of they did not do, it wasn't a menu that was like, oh, you could get, no, it was a few things, a few hot sandwiches, a few pastas, and some pizzas. So pizzas was always our thing. So I always wanted to focus on pizzas. So whether it's a thin crust pizza, we did every variation of crust. So thin, double dough, extra thin, whatever it may be. But the stuffed and the pan pizzas are something that we did since Berwyn, but now they've really taken off because of all the videos and stuff. But that's something I bought, and I like them. So I like the stuffed pizzas, so that's something that I always took pride in, making a good stuffed pizza, messing with the technique and making sure, doing it different ways, seeing what was the best thing. Signature pizzas, that was always a way to change your menu by adding different signature pizzas, which you could see on videos or you could see at other places that you go to. So, one time I was eating a slice of pizza and I had fries, and I put fries on the pizza. From that, and I liked it. From that, we have this pizza still on the menu, an Italian beef pizza with peppers and fries on there. And some people are like, oh, why? You try it and it's good. Pizza on, fries on pizza with Italian beef. It's like a sandwich and fries on a pizza. It's good. Or you come up with like a buffalo chicken type of pizza, or, an Alfredo pizza, or whatever type of pesto pizza. Something to kind of add some new element, or something that you saw somewhere else and you tweaked it, or whether it was the beef roll. And then, the beef roll turned into a meatball roll, turned into a chicken parm roll, turned into a vegetarian roll with our eggplant, like all these different variations and different, ways to keep creating that. And then now we do something where every month we have a different specialty. So something that you can only get that month. And we always try to base it on time of the year. So like we just got done, we call it a Thanksgiving roll. It was literally, we cooked turkeys, we put stuffing and cranberry, we turned that into a roll with some gravy on the side. Coming up for December, for Christmas, we're going to have honey baked ham rolls. So honey baked ham that we cook, some pineapples, and that's our Christmas roll. And then just seasonally, if it's a May, Cinco de Mayo, we do like a fajita roll, a steak fajita roll. If we've done gyro rolls for Easter, like, lamb. Like, there's always a way that you're saying, like, how can we tie this in? So Greek Easter, lamb, gyro, boom, gyro roll. So we're always tweaking it that way too. So always keeping up, changing, keeping your staples in there, but also changing it up and giving some new variations.
Now, with any of these menu innovations, are you typically the kind of driving force behind them, or is it more of a collaborative effort with the staff, with the team?
Yeah, if somebody brings something up, there'll be, somebody will bring an idea up. I'm all for trying it. So I never want to take away somebody's creativity. So I never want to be like, no, that's not. If somebody comes up with something, they'll come to me and be like, hey, I want to try this type of roll. If it's good, we do it. We came up with dessert rolls for someone's idea. Like we teamed up with Eli's Cheesecake, and we did cheesecake rolls with a pastry puff type of roll, or pumpkin pie rolls, or cherry. So yeah, I mean, I'm always taking ideas from whoever. But I'll tell you one thing, I want to like the roll. So it's hard for me to sell something if I don't like it. Now there's one roll that we do. It's only available is St. Patrick's Day. So it's in March. It's a corned beef. It's a corned beef roll. I hate corned beef. I don't eat it. I just don't like it. This is one of our most popular rolls. If we could sell it year round, people would buy it. But we just do it for March because we cook up a bunch of corned beef, and people love it. People love that roll. I can't say that I love it. I don't like corned beef, but I do want to like the roll. If I'm going to push it, I want to like it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to eat it. But absolutely.
Love that. One thing I really love and hate about these conversations is that I always end up being way more hungry than I'm supposed to be, even if I eat before.
Where are you from? What area are you in? You're not in Illinois, right?
No, I'm between New York and LA, California. Yeah. So yeah, but
so
now I definitely
I would invite you over if you're closer. I did a podcast, somebody from Boston, and he ended up coming to Chicago months later for a restaurant show. And he came by, man. I made him all those pizzas and rolls that he was, we're talking about. So if you're ever in Chicago, please come on by.
Yes. Now I have a reason to go for sure.
Absolutely.
Definitely will stop by. Oh, that's great. So one thing I still didn't ask about, and I know we're reaching the 1 hour mark, but if you have a couple more
absolutely.
minutes,
I got that.
Yeah, great. So we didn't touch upon, you mentioned it, Parlay bar.
Yes.
So how does Parlay play into everything? When does it come in? What's your role with it?
Sure. So
Please share.
Parlay is our partner location with Crazy Pour. It was an opportunity that was available. So let me explain Parlay a little bit. Parlay, this location in particular, is the very first Top Golf location that Top Golf ever had. So if you're familiar with Top Golf, three levels of golf, like a driving range. It's an outdoor venue, indoor-outdoor venue. They have heated bays. So even in the winter time, we have heated bays. So even if it's 20 or like right now, it's freezing outside. It's about 20
Oh,
degrees.
yeah.
But even with 20 degrees, you turn the heated bays on, the heat lamps, you're at about 50 degrees, 45, 50 degrees. So people could still come out and play golf year round. So that's the main drive, the main motivation for this spot is it's the old Top Golf. Top Golf ended up leaving this venue, and I think they became partners with Callaway Golf. Top Golf is all over, they're worldwide now. But this was literally the very first location they ever had. They outgrew it. They ended up leaving it. So, they learned from this building and they tweaked their model business form that they have now. But we took it over. We remodeled it's 2 levels of bars, indoor bars. We remodeled the bars. It is a very, very, very small kitchen. So when I tell you Crazy Pour has 3 lines of kitchen plus storage plus walk-ins, this is the exact opposite. It's tough. So we have a smaller menu there, but we ended up getting an oven. They're electric ovens. They're called Pizza Master ovens. Never have I had electric ovens, but this oven is so small, but it has 3 decks and it's electric that you're able to do different temperatures. So like the very top deck is like a 700-degree oven, which we do our coal fire pizzas. So it mimics a coal fire as if it was a wood burning oven, a high heat oven. But then we have another oven just for regular pizzas. We have another level for like the deep dish and the rolls. They cook at a different temperature. So, and it's small compared to the oven we have at Crazy Pour. It takes up a lot less room and it cooks faster. So it really cooks these pizzas. Instead of a 25 minutes for the pizza, this cooks in 15. Only because the ovens are smaller. You got heat from the top, heat from the bottom. It really just, it just cooks it much quicker. So with a small kitchen, that's always a good thing to turn over all these golf bays, and every time there's all these food coming in, at least it's coming out quicker. So that's a good thing. But Parlay came into existence, I want to say right around the same time, I kind of joined Crazy Pour. We had this, they were working on this thing with Parlay, and we ended up winning the bid on it as far as being the park district owns it. As far as being partnered up with the park district, they chose us. So like I said, we remodeled it. It is our other location. It's the same menu that we have at Crazy Pour. Smaller menu, but same recipe, same items. And we do a lot of events there. It's a big event space. So we have 4 different event spaces. So it could be birthdays, it could be corporate, holiday party season is coming now. And we actually use Crazy Pour. They're about 10 minutes away from each other. But Crazy Pour is like our commissary kitchen, our prep kitchen. So all the dough is made at Crazy Pour, the sauce, the cheese. And then we transport it in our refrigerator vans to Parlays. Even though we have less space, thankfully we do have Crazy Pour that kind of helps us with that. So these are 2, if we go back to when we started the conversation, Berwyn was a 1,000 square foot restaurant. And now we have 40,000 square feet, 60,000 square feet. We have giant spaces now. So indoor, outdoor, just full business model, whether it's slot machines, the bar, the food, everything. So it's a very layered business, and it's hit on all cylinders right now. So it's good.
Wow. Once again, congratulations. That is no small feat to, have such a journey that you've gone through. So as we start to wrap up, I'd love to ask first a couple quick fires for you, and then a final question I love asking all pizza owners, restaurateurs alike.
Okay.
Awesome. So first, what is your personal favorite pizza on your menu?
So a customized pizza, it's got to be extra, extra thin. I like it extra, extra crispy. If I had to choose, I like a meaty pizza. Give me sausage, bacon, pepperoni, that chari, all the oils of the meats, extra thin. That's my favorite.
Right. A pizza you'd recommend to someone who's never had your pizza before?
So If it's out of towners, different states, they got to come get the traditional Chicago stuffed pizza. That's the one I would recommend. My favorite stuffed pizza is bacon and garlic. I like to put that on the sauce on the top, so it roasts the entire time of that 45 minutes, and then all the cheese, on the bottom there. That's what I would recommend to people from out of town.
Yeah.
People locally, if they just want a pizza, I would tell them to try the Italian beef and fries. I do like it just because it's different with the giardiniera, and we have a good product. We didn't hit on this, and I know it's quick, but we partner with Jeff Morrow from Food Network. So Italian beef, his giardiniera, he's really given us a lot of exposure to with his social media. But I would say try the Italian beef, the giardiniera pizza for sure.
Pizza. Wow. Well, on that, I actually would love to also get your take. Of course, ingredients, is everything when it comes to pizza and all. And you hear some that really focus in on the cheese they're using, some on the meat, some on the dough. For you personally, what is kind of the king of ingredients when it comes for you?
So out of everything, I've always looked at it this way. Ingredients are very important, but like if you're talking green peppers, onions, everyone's kind of the same, right? I mean, you're just chopping up vegetables. Your meats are important. So like your Italian beef, that's why we use, the Morrow Provisions products. To me personally, your cheese, you can't use a cheap cheese. So that's very important. To me, it's the dough and the sauce. Cheese, you're going to have a handful of cheese brands, whether it's your Grande, your Galban, you're going to have a handful of cheese brands. Ingredients, it's pretty much this, whatever your distributor has. So everyone's using a universal bacon or a universal green pepper. It's the same. So to me, what differentiates every business, your dough, because that's your dough recipe, and your pizza sauce. Some people do a sweet sauce. Some people do a watery, thin sauce. Our pizza sauce is thicker. We use a really high-end tomato product, and we actually have to water it down a little bit. That's how thick it is. But we spice it up good. It's not a sweet sauce. So, and I like to go heavy on sauce. Like when I make a pizza, I like extra sauce. So we tend to put our pizzas tend to generally have a little extra sauce in there. So, yeah. So
interesting. Wow.
Go and sauce.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Many people often respond like everything is important. So I really appreciate the honesty right there.
Listen, your cheese, you're going to pay for what you have. Like, and I'm not bashing any cheese. Like I know Grande is the king of cheese. We use a different cheese. We don't use Grande cheese. We use a different cheese, and we have great stretch with our cheese. You see our cheese posts, our blended cheese. You get a good stretch out of it. Yeah, it's not dry at all. So, like I said, I really do think because everyone's dough is different. I like our dough is crispier. We use a different flour than most places. A lot of other pizza doughs could be like softer, soggier. I think sometimes I like it more crisp. If you take a square from our pizza from the end or from the middle, they're both not going to flop on you. They're both going to stay nice and firm and crisp. So I really do. I think that's very important.
Very nice. So on that note, what is what you think is your most underrated menu item?
Underrated. So are we talking just pizzas or are we talking like anything in the kitchen?
The entire menu item. Yes, the entire menu.
So, we're a sports bar. So a lot of people get surprised that we do baked clams at our sports bar. Our baked clams are great. We do calamari, grilled calamari, fried calamari. Great. We make arancini, which are rice balls. We make them in-house.
Wow.
Which are really good. Our wings. A lot of people use frozen wings. We make our own wings.
Wow.
Never frozen. We make them daily. They're always fresh. Keeps them juicier. Keeps them like plumpier. Like really good wings. So we have a great bar menu as far as appetizers go. Pizzas, we have any type of pizza that you want, we have. And if you want it a certain way, you just tell us. Like we're here to make it the way that you want it. So I don't want anybody leaving saying, I didn't like the pizza, or it's not the way that. No, you tell us how you want it. You want it well done, we'll make it well done. You want it pie cut, you want it square cut, whatever you want.
So that's amazing. I love that. You're just adding more and more menu items I'll have to try. So then what is one hot/controversial take you have about whether it's pizzas, pizza culture, or the pizza business as a whole?
So right off the bat, when you said controversial, I'm going to tell you pineapples. I love pineapples. So people have something against pineapple on pizza. I love pineapple on pizza, pineapple on ham, pineapple pepperoni. I think there's nothing, shouldn't say no to a certain thing. People always knock, stuffed pizza is a tourist pizza. Real Chicagoans don't eat it, which it's not really true. People don't probably get it on a weekly basis, but it is one of those you put in the rotation. So yeah, you like your normal pizza, your normal thin crust, but yeah, every once in a while you put it in the rotation, you get a stuffed pizza. So that's the other thing. Just a restaurant industry kind of, I think, back of house pizza guys. If you give me a choice of where I want to be, put me on the pizza line. I love working with pizza guys, back of house, kitchen guys, the culture. It's awesome. Everyone jokes around. Everyone's having a good time. When it comes time to work, people are working. But it's just a different vibe, different culture. When you're in the front, you're front of house. If you're at the host stand, if you're making sure everyone's tables and service is good, that's awesome too. I love meeting people. I love shaking hands. Hey, nice to meet you. But any day of the week, put me on the pizza line. Let me make pizzas. Let me get flour on me. That's where I want to be. That's what I love to do. So.
All right, and they're always having the best time. That's what I've noticed. They're always having the best time back
they're
there.
Dancing, they got their music on, they're making pizzas, they're tossing dough. They're having a great time.
That's great. And so from there, this is based on just lots of comments I've been seeing across your socials, and that's where this question kind of came from. And we'll try to make it heard as much as we can from our end. But what would be your elevator pitch for Dave Portnoy to come to try your pizza? Many have already said that they're surprised he hasn't stopped by yet.
I know.
So what would be your pitch?
I'm not going to lie. Anytime that I see videos of him and he's in Chicago, I get goosebumps. I'm like, oh God, is he going to come? I don't know. So there's always like a little nervous excitement.
Right.
I know he likes a certain type of pizza. He loves New Haven. He likes it a certain way, which I respect. But all I would say to him, because this is what he does, he never tells people he's ordering the pizza. So he just wants it the way a normal person would get it, which is fine, and we can do it. But I would love to make him the pizza that he likes, because I know he'd love it. He would. I know he's a cheese pizza guy, so that's the number one thing. I know he likes pie cut, not squares. But whenever he comes to Chicago, it is square cut. My pitch to him, because I know when he comes to Chicago, he has a tough time with the boxes. He can never open them up. He's got the wrong side. My pitch to him would be, I will be there to open the pizza box and hold it for him while he eats it. I'll then close it. He could do his review, because I don't want to hear the review, because I know he doesn't want to. I want him to give an honest review. So I will leave the pizza there with him, then go, and then I'll listen for the score later, so he doesn't feel like he's got to give me a better score. But I would love to have him there. I would love to meet him. I think he's an awesome businessman. He does a lot. I mean, look what he's done with Barstool. So, and just one bite, everybody knows the rules. He's turned it into apps and merchant. He's done great for this, and it's all through pizza. So, and everywhere he goes, he helps these places. So I'd love to meet him. I'd love to make a pizza for him. I don't care what the score is. I'd want a decent score, but I know where I'd be somewhere probably because of the style of pizza that we have. But it would be pretty cool to see him.
Well, I think with that pitch, you definitely have a good shot, because that was very creative and shows you did your research. You did your research.
Pop that box open. I will hold it like this for him. He could take that first bite, do it, and then I'm gone. I'll put the pizza down and I'm gone. He could do his thing.
That's great. That's great. So, and this question, I'll have to modify it a little bit, as for you, really, as much as there was, well, and there still is, of course, Nono's Pizza. There was Enzo's Pizza, and now there is Enzo's Pizza by Crazy Poor, right? I guess in this case, what would you want, say, more so, your pizza and your way of preparing food to be remembered for?
That's a good question. It's tough. I always keep it light, right? In the end of it, it's pizza. So it's like, it's nothing to get too upset about, nothing to be, in the end, it is pizza. But I want it to be, it's not even about the pizza. It's more about the experience. I love my nights that I'm at Crazy Poor, if it's a Friday or a Sunday, I like to hang out with some, there's people that come in that are regular. You hug them, you handshake, whoever it is, you sit with them, you talk with them. To me, I want it to be more about the experience than just the actual pizza itself, because I think everything is tied into that. So your experience from when you walk in the door to when you get seated and greeted, and whether it's one of our servers whether I'm there, one of our managers, I want the whole experience. And that's why we always say like this layered business. The whole family could come. You could bring a grandma. She could be on the slots. You could bring the father. He's watching big screen sports. You could bring the mom and she's drinking a martini, whatever it may be. But it's something for everybody and a great experience. And then the food just ties it up.
Love that. I love that. So, well, right now the floor is yours. Where can listeners and viewers find you online? Any addresses, contacts you'd like to share?
Absolutely. So, well, here's my pet peeve. So I'm going to get this out of the way first. With all the videos that we do, all the TikToks or everything, I always get where is this place? Where is it located? I always post, our team will always post where it is. It'll always say Parlay Bar, Crazy Four Sports Bar. I mean, all you have to do in that post itself, there's like the geo tag on there. So it's always in the things. And then if worse comes to worse, click on our profile. We have all the info on there. So it's going to add our address, but basically it's Enzo's Pizza by Crazy Pour. That's Facebook and Instagram. It's Enzo's Pizza on TikTok. That's where you're going to find us. 2 locations, Villa Park, Illinois. That's Crazy Pour, the sports bar. And then Wooddale, Illinois. That's Parley Bar. That's the old Topgolf. So we have, like I said, the driving range at Parlay. We also have a sports book and off-track betting at Crazy Pour. So we really try to provide a lot to do at our location. So that's the 2 spots. And I'm telling you, if you're ever in the area or if you're ever going to be in vacation in Chicago, whoever's listening to this, whoever watches the videos, they always tell me, hey, we're going to come by. Whenever you come by, say hi, introduce yourself, ask for me, or my partner, Sergio or Tid, there's anybody. There's 3 of us. One of us is always at one of these spots. We'd love to meet you, shake your hand. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for traveling. But I love meeting people. I love putting out a good product, a good pizza, and just a good experience.
Thanks again, Enzo, for your time. Now definitely have my first stop set for when I'm in the area next time. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, everyone, for listening, watching, and sharing this great conversation. This was Pizzas and Stories by Pizza Box, and until next time.